Hello, everyone. At Benjamin, do we wait a little bit for more participants or start immediately?
I think let me check. Let me check something and then I'll get back to you.
All right.
Or we can give them about 5 minutes if you allow us, so that we can have more attendees coming in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on medicine and leadership. As we wait for more participants to join, kindly introduce yourself in the chat box and maybe you can share with us your favorite emoji. or emojis. You have many. Thank you.
We're all doing well wherever you're joining us in.
Okay, I think we can begin now. Once again, hello everyone. My name is Lilian Kitonga, a second-year medical student at the University of Nairobi, and I'm humbled to be one of the moderators for this session. So I'll just get started by introducing our speakers for today. And I'll start with Dr. Stanley Ariaru, who's a general and laparoscopic surgeon, an associate fellow of the American College of Surgeons, member of International Society of Surgery, member of the World Society of Emergency Surgery, member of the Council of Science Editors, member of the WHO Global Initiative on Emergency and Essential Surgical Care. Our second speaker for this session is Dr. Job Mogira, who's a resident physician at the University of Kansas. Lancet is a Lancet Global Health Journal Science interviewer and podcast presenter. Harvard Medical School Harvard Medical School Global Clinical Research Scholar, Scholars Training Program in Clinical Research, and he's also a founder of the 100 Million Dreams Project. So without much ado, I'd like to welcome Benjamin Masereti to take over the panel discussion. Thank you. Benjamin?
Thank you so much, Lilian, for that amazing introduction of our speakers. As everyone has noted, our speakers are gentlemen who have really excelled in what they're doing, and we are very much excited and humbled to have them here today. So to start us off, we have a set of questions that are going to guide our discussion, and we'll just go right into it. So the first question, I'll ask both of them, but I'll start with Dr. Stanley. Dr. Stanley, our discussion today is about medicine and leadership, and in most cases, you find the people in healthcare training and medical students tend to shy away from leadership opportunities, and and they do so because they feel like I mean, it is too much. Medicine is already too much. There's so much to do in school, and giving yourself out into leadership is going to be so much burden. And we'd like to know how your process was in finding out your why. as we continue the discussion.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Thank you, Benjamin. Good evening, Lillian and Job and all the panelists. It's my pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for that question. It's an interesting one. How did I find my why? And if I have to link it with leadership, I will say I actually do not know if I am yet done with finding my why. Sometimes you pause and wonder, am I still certain that this is how I want to do? But at least one thing is sure, that this is how I want to do it. So what's important is there is a certain way you do what you do, whatever it is that you choose to do. And I think I'm in the process of discovering my why. One of the reasons, or one of the contributors to my discovering of my why, is how I got my high school education. My story parallels that of Job. Job is privileged to have authored a memoir of his chronicles in Kirongorori and other villages. And I suffered a similar fate. When I finished primary school, my family didn't have much to take me to high school. And in fact, what Dad wanted me to do was to become a motor vehicle mechanic. And I like to make a joke now that I became a mechanic who deals with blood instead of oil, with flesh and bones instead of aluminum and rods, and repairs engines while they're still running. That is a surgeon. And basically, my being a surgeon, my being where I am today, is attributable to my community, who decided this chap has passed so well, we cannot waste him away in a village polytechnic. And I keep every day asking myself, is there a way I can pay that? And perhaps the way to pay that is to influence another child to achieve more than they have at their disposal, by way of being a good model to them, by way of offering an idea, a thought, or even financial, so to speak. Now, coming to medicine and leadership, sometimes we like to say that leadership has not been incorporated in the curriculum of medical training, but that's not actually true. It is not true. I think the challenge is where it has been placed. And when you look at the curriculum of the various medical schools, and Job will agree with me, you will find that quantitative skills, tax, commerce, reading, and writing skills are stored in the first year, basic year, common courses. And people join and they don't have fun for that. They know we are the top cream of the society. We should be dissecting the corpus callosum, not discussing how to arrive at VAT. So by the time you are graduating, that's the time you want to know, okay, how do I lead a team at the district hospital? How do I sort my finances? And you realize, you know what, you crammed that, passed that, and you moved on. And now when you require it, you do not have it. So it has been there, but the emphasis and the placement perhaps is what is not correct. Thank you, back to you.
Wow, that was really amazing, Daktari. I especially like the fact that you appreciate what your community did for you and therefore want to go ahead and give someone else an opportunity to walk in your path. I think that is really encouraging. Yeah, so I'll ask Dr. Mugira the same question. Dr. Mugira, you kindly share with us the process that it has taken you to find your why. And we are really excited we'll be excited to hear about your journey through Kirongorori, because I've heard it in one of your podcasts. So please talk about it also.
Thank you, Benjamin, and it's great to meet you here, Stanley. I shared 5 years of school with Stanley in Moi University. Benjamin, and you've been amazing in terms of organizing these events. The consistency with which you've communicated just demonstrates that you are learning the basic tenets, the fundamentals you need that you can transport anywhere and be an effective leader. So Kirongorori, I usually tell people before you say the name of my former school, you better swallow your saliva, sit down, loosen your belt, and make sure that you have emergency contact available, because if you bite your tongue, I will not be responsible. I grew up in Kisii, and I was in boarding school my whole life, but my housemaster was my mom and my housemates or my siblings. In other words, I was a day scholar the entire time. The first time I sat down to read under electricity was when I joined Moi University, and it was quite an adjustment. That is the background. The question you ask is a very thoughtful and real question that I ask myself every day. And I like what Dr. Stanley, you said, that I think the greatest danger I will ever be at is the day I presume that I have found my why. Because I look at the things that I have wanted before, and every time I ask myself why. So for example, you want to become a leader. The question is why? You want to make a difference in people's lives. The question is why? Why does that matter to you? How does that connect to why you are here as a person? After you leave, what kind of impact do you leave behind? What kind of legacy you leave behind? When you're gone, what will be the story that people would like to tell, but they can't tell? And that's what gets me fired, that I know that today, this event we have, this is the final event. There is not going to be another event. This is the final performance right now. We are not coming back to redo this event. If we are coming back to do another event, that's a different event. So I haven't found my why. I am pursuing my why, and I'm pursuing my why focused on two ingredients. That I would like to live a meaningful life, but I live a meaningful life by focusing on leaving a legacy I would be happy to celebrate, and having an impact that I don't have to take credit for, that an impact that speaks for itself. And it's a journey of daily reflection. When you speak about leadership and wherever you are, it's a journey of daily reflection, no matter whether I am in school or I'm in internship or I'm now working with the government or a private agency. It's very easy to know whether I am pursuing my why. Am I living for a higher ideal, or am I settling? Because sometimes, all of us, everybody on this call, you are in the top 10% or even the top 5% of the country in terms of your academic ability. If I compare myself to other people and then base it to determine whether I am living a meaningful life, it can be very easy for me to become vain and to feel as though, oh, I'm really, really crushing it. Or if I compare myself to people who are doing better, I can become discouraged, though I can't live their life. They can't live my life. So I haven't defined my why. I continue peeling at the layers, and hopefully someday I will sit down and say that I have discovered my why, my higher purpose, and now I'm living it.
Wow, that's really amazing. It is very humbling to learn that you, the people that we are looking up to, you that we feel like you've achieved so much already, still say that you don't feel like you've achieved your why. So that is really humbling, and I appreciate the fact that you say that you just want to live a meaningful life, to leave a legacy and to impact others. I think even by coming today to talk to us, that is already impacting people, and I believe that our attendees are already gaining from our discussion today. Yeah, so thank you so much, both Dr. Stanley and Dr. Job, for that. Our next question is, what one question do you wish that you would have asked yourself earlier in your career? Maybe this time we can start with the Dr. Job. What is the one question that you feel like you would have asked yourself earlier in your career and maybe could have made a difference to what you're doing at the moment?
It's Benjamin, I looked at these questions and I just sat down and said, my goodness, you guys reflected about what kind of questions would really stimulate a discussion, because these are practical questions. it feels to me as though I came to the panel discussion to be coached, because I have to reflect about these questions practically and be authentically true to myself, that I'm not just trying to shine a light where I have not shown that light in my own life. I think the single most important question I ask myself every day is, in light of my past experiences, my current circumstances, and my future aspirations, what is the best use of my time, energy, and attention right now? That is the one question I wish I had asked myself as early as high school, or immediately after high school, or medical school, or soon after I graduated from medical school. In light of my past experiences, my current circumstances, and my future aspirations, what's the best use of my time, my energy, and my attention right now? My time is fixed. It's 24 hours, period. That's done. The second ingredient is energy. Am I operating by energy that is determined by my environment? So that I wake up today angry because I was angry yesterday, or I wake up today bored because there's nothing going on. Am I dependent on the environment to set my energy level? Or am I taking charge of my energy and determining what level of energy I will show up with? And attention, how much attention am I truly investing in the things I keep speaking about? Are my actions matching my words? If somebody had a camera over my life and they watched that for a week and they listened to an audio transcription of the things I say, will these two things say the same thing? So I wish I had asked myself that question earlier. In light of my past experiences, my current circumstances, and my future aspirations, what's the best use of my time, energy, and attention right now? That would be the one question. And it's a question that I keep asking myself every day. Right now, when I woke up today, it's one of those questions that I have made a routine to ask myself. Back to you, Benjamin.
Amazing, amazing. That was, I'm not even going to repeat because I don't want to dilute it. So I'll just go to Dr. Stanley. Dr. Stanley, which is the one question that you'd have asked yourself early in your career and would have made a difference?
Thank you, Benjamin. And I am not going to pretend that I can measure up to the complexity and philosophical answer that I was given. I'm a village surgeon, so as long as I have good hemoglobin, I will go in. Anyhow, that is neither here nor there. That question is interesting. I looked at it, and true to what Job has said, you look at it and you wonder, damn it, this guy has just caught me. But I will share my experience. In my previous work, I used to work for the salary and cover alternate weekends because this is the schedule I met. When I cleared with my former employer and took up a new job in a new position, I was very particular in my interview. I said, I won't work over the weekend because at that point I had gotten so constrained. I felt like my wings were clipped. And everyone resisted it, but there I was. It was either I will win the interview or I won't win, but guys, I'm here Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm off. I went and I was told, you passed the interview. And when I came during the salary negotiations, I was told, oh, you can cover one weekend and the other weekend go off. And I was like, no, I was very particular. I'm not going to cover the weekend. I'm using that as an example to answer the question. The question I wish I had asked myself long time ago is, besides the pay slip, how does this job grow me? And that brings us to one tenet that Job mentioned. That is the expenditure of one's time. We will serve. I know this might be music to some people's ears because by the time you're finishing 6 years of medical school, all you want is an internship. By the time you're done with that torture of 52 weeks, all you want is a job that gives you your rent and your pay at the end of the day. But then you realize, yeah, you have the money, however much it is, and you're working 24/7. So when do you get time to use it? And that's when you realize a rest is as good as the job itself. Because I find my mind so productive on a Sunday because I have slept on Friday, I have rested on Saturday, I have switched off my phone if I need to, and these are the times I suddenly find an idea to write my blog around, an idea to write a newspaper article around, an idea to throw in when I sit in a management meeting, for example, etc., etc. And I already think that when I get to negotiate my salary negotiation at a certain point in time, I will actually surprise them because I might not ask for a pay rise. I might ask for 1 day off because I realize having time to grow yourself contributes exponentially to your output at work. So you cannot pour from an empty cup. And unfortunately, this experience comes with time when you realize, look back in time and wonder, how did I miss that? How did I miss that injury on the x-ray? How did I miss that patient when I slept knowing I would review them in the morning before I go? And you realize this could be fatigue, or this could be because you are rushing to clear some backlog, etc., etc. So taking time to rejuvenate, taking time to think through, taking time to grow yourself parallel-wise means that you will have better productivity as an employee. And that for me becomes the important question I will keep asking. How will this job grow me? If there is no training in it for me, if there's no career advancement in it for me, offered as part of the package, let me leverage on time. So if we are discussing this money, can we do 4.5 days a week instead of 5 days a week, for example? And I think that would be an interesting angle that people do not realize quickly, because the behavior in the health sector in Kenya, especially the private health sector, is you are milked dry and everyone is counting the bottom line. How many surgeries did Ariero do in the last month? How many complications did he have? What revenue did he bring us? How many patients did he convert from the clinic to the theater? What was the bed capacity that was accrued from his caseload, for example? And you totally forget the aspect of quality, which is where healthcare fails in Kenya. Healthcare is a quality service. It's not a production line. We move it, especially surgery, medicine, whatever. You move it from a production line to a service line where you're not tagged at how much have you produced, but how well have you done it. And unless you take charge yourself as an individual, then no one takes charge, because everyone who is leading the health sector today has been trained to look at the bottom line, and that is what the board of management looks at, that is what the creditors will look at, etc., etc. So taking time to yourself is really important. Thank you, Benjamin.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Daktari, for that comprehensive response. I like the fact that you say that you cannot pour from an empty cup. So this does not just apply to the two of you who are already in the field. It also applies to us as students. And I believe that the attendees are getting and taking down some notes. Thank you also for bringing in an aspect that I'll just ask you directly. You've mentioned about writing newspaper articles. You've mentioned about being a village surgeon. You've also talked about, I'm also aware that you're involved in Toastmaster public speaking. I believe you also have a family, and that is quite demanding. And you also spare time to work. I mean, to mentor young people, and also, I know you have a project at home in which you go to your former schools and you mentor the students in those areas. How are you able to balance all these, and how are they making you a better leader?
Thank you, Benjamin. That is 1 gigabyte of a question. So let me start with the last few bytes, which was, how are these making me a better leader? There is an article that came out, I think, last year from the Harvard Business Review, and they spoke about leading yourself. And there is another title, I forget, I will share if I remember, but they spoke about one entity called cross-training. And the gentleman who was writing this article mentioned that when you see a marathoner, say Eliud Kipchoge, and you find him in the deep end of the swimming pool trying breaststroke or freestyle and all that, he is not trying to to change careers and now become an Olympic medalist in swimming. He just knows that maybe swimming is an extra avenue for him to develop a better breathing technique, to exercise his core muscles, and all this will come together to make him a better marathoner. And that aspect of cross-training essentially carried the message home that when you are a leader, study things that are not in your field. It is an oxymoron because I am a believer in being an expert in the area where you lead, so that I won't come here and try to pontificate how you should be a good surgeon if I am not a good surgeon myself, or how you should be a good clinician if I'm not a good clinician myself. I should be able to live to that talk or walk the talk. But if you are a surgeon and you're trying public speaking and you're trying some other side hustles in quote, not for money, but for these other skills, then you realize that you'll connect with people better because you'll understand how they talk, you'll understand how they interact, you'll understand how they cow at the mention of a surgeon, how you will be branded as having superiority complex, high up there in the clouds, you can't be reached by your juniors, and all these things give you a 360-degree understanding of your environment. Once you have a 360 understanding of your environment, even as you approach your people, the people that you lead or the people that you work with, you know, I am likely to be perceived this way in this group and this is how I can handle them. This way in this group and this is how I can handle them. And for me, being in Toastmasters has just helped that, to understand how to communicate. In fact, communicating for surgeons, communicating for doctors, or communicating for scientists is such a problem because we are so used to it, and we'll come and draw our bar graph there and understand, I mean, guys, you can't see this coefficient, you can't this propensity, you can't see this, because that's what we're used for. When we study in conferences, people want to see thoroughly researched slides with all kind of meta-analysis. At the end of the day, the common person is asking, okay, so what did you say? So joining Toastmasters has learned me to communicate, has taught me to communicate whichever way, whether it's verbally or non-verbally, but to package my difficult story into simple, palatable information. And that's a great one. And being in Toastmasters, being in these various leadership roles, helped me become a better surgeon because I know if I do not communicate better, if I do not communicate clearly, then the post-operative instructions are not going to be clear. They are going to be ambiguous. And that is the patient who, after 7 hours of the esophagectomy, is going to leak, get mediastinitis. And of course, they will go to that other room, which is usually at the corner of the hospital. It starts with an M-O-R-G-U-E. Now, that is it in a nutshell. Let me come to the next question, which is huge. How do you manage all this? And if there is one irreplaceable answer I can give to that is you must be selfish. You must be selfish. By selfish, I mean, listen to WIFM. My friend calls it WIFM, W-I-I-F-M. What's in it for me? I am in Toastmasters because I value networking and I value public speaking among the very many other skills. Benjamin, you will be surprised if you join Toastmasters, there's a project called Moderate a Panel Discussion. And all these things you're doing, you will learn some theory about it and then you're given a chance to do it. So you're already an expert on this, and if you join, you become better. So you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? What do I want to do? I go to my sub-county hospital to offer services because, like I began by saying, my community brought me up, and that is one of the most direct ways of paying back. They said, don't deny us a doctor. They trained a doctor. So let me go back and give them some doctor-related services. I mentor young children because I knew, or I know, and I have lived the confusion and anarchy of not knowing, okay, so this high school, this primary school, what are we doing it for? And then you finish KCP, I realize I've passed. Oh, I have passed. So what am I supposed to do? You're supposed to go to high school. Yet, when you look at another person from a better background in terms of finances and exposure, right from high school, they know I want to be an engineer, I want to go to MIT, I want to be a lawyer, I want to go to Yale, I want to be a doctor, I want to go to Johns Hopkins. These are chalk and cheese you are comparing. So being available there and just saying one or two things to those guys could be a source of inspiration. That's what I tell myself. And I behold myself to do that because when I was there, I did not get, in my whole village, there was only one person in university that time. We used to watch him like we are worshiping him. Oh, it is only the time. Let's just go by the roadside and stand there. He might pass going home from the university. One person, that guy has a degree. We thought that degree is one huge monument in somebody's room, and we would actually wonder if we can creep in and see what a degree is. So the need is there, and it's important if we can do that. Winston Churchill says, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And most of the times, all you can give is 5 minutes with a kid who has no idea in life and just chat to them, and that can drive them for the entire month. How do I do it? So the why is what's in it for me. So if it is giving you returns, fantastic. Last week, I wrote an article and I was saying the way I was interviewed for the position of area director in Toastmasters. And the first thing my district director asked me is, why do you want this? And I told them, because there is something in it for me. I want to become a distinguished Toastmaster, and I cannot go there without becoming an officer at the district level. So that in itself has beholden me. So whatever else I'm doing, I know there's something in it for me. Just the same way you do your job because there's a salary in it for you. I have found myself squeezed left, right, and center like anyone else. The only technique I have adopted is to block time for certain activities. For example, on Monday afternoons, going into the evening, I block time for my journal work. I am the associate editor of the Annals of African Surgery. That is the day I will go through the charts in the WhatsApp for the editorial group. That's the time I will access my portal, the Scholar One manuscripts, and see which manuscripts are waiting to be assigned to my assistant editors, which ones have come back from the reviewers and they need the editorial comments to be forwarded to the editor-in-chief, etc., etc. And I split that with the Toastmasters. That is the time I will find some minutes to scroll through the WhatsApp group and find what people have posted, reply to them. That's the time I will know there is an assignment. I will follow up, and that's the time I will still squeeze myself and read something. That's done. The rest of the day's work bounces you left, right, and center. Weekends, I will say this is family time. Of course, weekends and evenings. Weekends, this is family time. Friday, I will squeeze and say, okay, let me look at something I can do administratively. So if you can block those times, even when you are busy, you know, by the way, it is Monday 2 to 4 or until next week. And you kind of are now compelled to do something. And that does not mean that I am an expert at doing it. Every so often, my bosses are breathing down my neck, that my turnaround time is crazy for the journal, that there are these clubs that have not submitted 1, 2, 3, 4. So it doesn't mean it is easy, but at least you try that and keeps you grounded and keeps you moving. I hope I tried to answer. Back to you, Benjamin.
Amazing, amazing, Dr. You did not try to answer. You've answered so well. I wish you were able to see me because I've been nodding all the time, and I know that is what.
I thought your video was nod.
The device that I'm using is not able to allow me to do that, but I'm sure that the attendees have also been taking down notes and gaining from your discussion about how you are able to manage all this and how they are making you a better leader. So I'll ask the same question to Dr. Mogire. Dr. Mogire, you are a resident physician, which means you are very busy. You are actively involved in public speaking, just like Dr. Stanley. You have a family, and you have so many more engagements that we are yet to learn. How are you able to balance all this, and how are they making you a better leader?
Thank you, Benjamin. Once again, that's an amazing question. And so every question that you presented is a challenge on reflection, so that you know, whatever information that we end up sharing with each other, that we are sharing all that information in integrity, that this is the truth, this is how things are, because we all have areas where we have to continue growing. all of us can use our time, our energy, and our attention better. What I know is that the things I'm involved in, I'm not involved in them by accident. I have set objectives around each of these things to do them. I actually took a year off from practicing intentionally to develop certain skills that I needed to grow. I think in my summary, if I speak about everything that we do, everything we do boils down to offering value. Everything we do is offering value. And sometimes offering value is as simple as communicating value clearly, so that sometimes the people who you find they receive more compensation, maybe more recognition, more respect. It's not necessarily because they are doing more, it's because they are communicating clearly. So my biggest challenge, I believe, is leading myself well and communicating clearly to myself, communicating what my goals are, what my highest priorities are, and then using that clarity of communication to do what Dr. Stanley has recommended, blocking out time, which is another way of saying prioritizing. I like what one of the renowned speakers, John C. Maxwell, says about prioritizing, that prioritizing is making pre-decisions about time. It's pre-deciding where the considerations you have in your hands will rank, and therefore how much time you will invest in them. So I find that the one thing that really, really helps me is continually asking myself the why question, to communicate clearly to myself about the value I am pursuing in whatever I'm involved in, then utilizing that information to pre-decide, to prioritize. And once I have prioritized, it's like committing in advance. So for example, I had to commit in advance to show up for this meeting, so that whatever else comes, I'm not trying to, I know that I do not have any room to squeeze anything else into this block of time that I had already assigned to this. Similar to Dr. Stanley, I have a schedule I follow that I know what will happen when, and then I have a buffer in between to allow me to take up any matters that keep arising. You know, if something else comes, I mean, emergencies arise right, left, and center. But when those emergencies come, then it's easy for you to figure out, if you have communicated clearly what the value is, what you are going for. Like, you know, if you are being actively selfish, if I could use Stanley's words, actively selfish in terms of really protecting what's in it for you. Because sometimes what is in it for you is the impact you want to have. Sometimes what's in it for you is the legacy you want to leave. Sometimes what's in it for you is the change, the difference you want to make. So that when you commit to that, to making that difference, then it ends up touching somebody else. But that's only possible because you have made it a priority. I believe in all-round training in the areas that will have the most impact in your service as a person. So for example, as a student, as a medical student, I think the most valuable experiences I remember actually don't have anything to do with exams. They don't even have, most of them don't even have anything to do with the patients I was seeing in the clinic or in the hospital. Most of those experiences have to do with the medical camps we went to, and especially the schools I used to find time to go and speak to. I would create like a 2-page handout that has the key points I want the students to remember, and then I go with this handout to go speak to the students and give them this handout. What's in it for me? I am leaving an impact, but I'm also practicing my skills as becoming a better communicator, because we are always communicating with ourselves and with other people. So even for you as a student, beyond just your formal duties, the one thing that is going to plug you into the community and start stirring your mind to think beyond the prescribed curriculum, the prescribed schedule, is for you to find other places where you would find the delight and pleasure and enjoyment of contributing and also experiencing something that stretches your thinking, stretches your creativity, stretches you to be more effective. The final thing I will say is that if you don't feel your schedule, if you don't in advance fill your schedule with what you want, that schedule will be full by the end of the week with other people's plans, other people's emergencies, other people's deadlines. So the question is, will I lead myself and assert my responsibility to create my schedule so that it occupies my time with what will take me to where I'm going? Or am I going to allow other people's agendas, other people's deadlines to encroach into and occupy the room that I need to grow? That would be that would be my response to this question, Benjamin. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. for that. I can't add or subtract anything from what you've said. Just to reiterate what you've said, the biggest challenge for us is to lead ourselves well. So I hope you are still getting more insights as we are continuing with this discussion. And just to request our speakers, there's the questions that are coming in the chat box. You can continue answering those that can be answered through short answers, and then we'll cover the rest at the end of it. But just to go back to the questions that we've been asking, which is the most important leadership lesson that you have learned so far in your leadership experiences, and how has it proven invaluable? Dr. Stanley, maybe we can start with you again. The most important leadership lesson you've learned and how it has proven invaluable.
Thank you again, Benjamin. Very brilliant and thought-provoking question. Most important leadership lesson. I have learned that the test of leadership is leading yourself first. That is where people will see leadership. They will eventually know this guy has all the titles, but if I want this and this done, I would rather have this guy do it. So leading yourself in terms of how you conduct yourself, in terms of how you address people, in terms of how you keep your word, in terms of how you dress to work, how you dress out to meet friends, colleagues, acquaintances, how you keep time, what are the principles that guide you? And finally, especially in the field of healthcare, being on top of your game. So if you are a doctor, then you are a good doctor. And as we will all agree with time, the good doctor or the best doctor is not the one who passed with a first-class honors. That does not exist. Doctors either pass or fail. There's no classification. The best doctor is the doctor who is available, and the best doctor is the doctor who does the best in the interest of the patient. So being the best doctor, again, it's one way of saying, if you are a leader in this field, then you have made sure that you deliver your best, not just say, like our politicians and other leaders do. So that is one particular lesson I have learned. The second, which is interrelated, is that actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. You can reply to emails and say, we will think about it. You can do all you do, but we will all remember this gospel that was read some months back. You know, someone was told to go to the field and they said, I won't go. Then later they went. Another son was told, go, and he said, I will go. And then he did not go. At the end of the day, who would you rather have as a son? All you needed is the bottom line for the work to be done, and someone did the work. So that's quite a challenge in that way. Actions speak louder than words. In my current position, I have some leadership position in the hospital. Where I was before, I was purely a clinical person. I was the resident surgeon. My work was to operate. But every so often, you would hear the administrator and the CEO throw words like, Ariaru is our lead, Ariaru is our this, Ariaru is our this. And I did not know, I did not find out, and I did not ask, why is this said, yet it's not in my job description. And I imagined maybe it is how I conduct myself. I have not proven that, and being scientists, we can't just move on innuendo. But there is energy and dependability that comes with people seeing that this guy has got his, pardon my French, shit together. You know, this guy, by the way, There is no way you are coming to tell him things and he will act surprised. He will know, okay, this happened like this happened like this. I had this under control. What you've done is different. And this is my principle and you're not breaching it, etc., etc. So really, in a nutshell, lead yourself. People will see that if this guy is leading himself, then he can lead others. And then let your actions, your behavior, your work speak for you. Back to you, Benjamin.
Amazing, amazing, Dr. Dr. Mogira, maybe you can answer the same question.
The three that Stanley you've highlighted are really powerful. I even feel hesitant to add anything else. This last one, actions speak louder than words. It's almost a cliche, but it's one of those cliches that will never ever be irrelevant. Actions do speak louder than words. Another way I like to say that is that you can feign action, you can't feign results. The proof of action is in the results. You can feign, you can pretend to act, but you can't pretend to achieve results. It's just the results are the proof of the investment that you have made it. I would reiterate the point that our biggest challenge, this is perhaps the single most important thing I have learned, that the biggest challenge I face every day, I face it in the mirror. My biggest challenge every day is in the mirror. Your biggest challenge is you. When I look at what's happening around the world, when I look at what's happening in Kenya, for example, what's happening in healthcare, there is the public problem, and there is the private problem. There is the Kenyan in the mirror. The Kenyan in the mirror is the biggest part of the problem we have in the country. The doctor in the mirror is part of the problem in healthcare. The medical student in the mirror is part of the healthcare problem in the country. And so my biggest challenge is always leading myself. And I am the hardest person to lead. I am the hardest person to lead because I have participated in every bad decision I've ever made. And that's also true to you. You have participated in every bad decision you have ever made. And I was part of any decisions that led to regrets. You were part of any decisions in your life that led to regrets. So that the single biggest factor, just to reiterate what Dr. Stanley said, because this is extremely important, it is self-leadership. Self-leadership, so that the way I operate, the way I work, the way I live, right, is the first place where that leadership is grown. Maybe one more thing to add is that perhaps this keeps happening to me, and learning this every other day, that sometimes the most important events in your life happen on the most ordinary days. The most influential events in your life will come to you on the most ordinary days. And if you look at several examples, if you look at, for example, I could reference the Bible and speak about David. The day David ended up killing Goliath, he was just on an errand. He was sent with food to take to the shepherds and take some food to his brothers who were in the battlefield, right? It was an ordinary day, and he showed up for an ordinary day, and that ordinary day ended up turning out to be something so influential that we even speak about it today. In your life and in my life, our ordinary days are the stuff that will lead us to that high vision and high purpose that we are trying to go for. Yeah, this is an amazing and reflective question. Can't exhaust it. So that would be my response for now. Back to you, Benjamin.
Thank you so much, Dr. once again. That was the two responses from Dr. Mogira and Dr. Aruyaru are really thought-provoking, and I want to thank you so much for giving such insights and such sharing your experiences on the same. So just to go into the next question, and this will be quite interesting. Was there ever a role you applied for and landed, but you felt inadequate for it? And if so, how did you proceed? Maybe we can start with Dr. Mogire.
It's my pathway has been very unconventional, very unconventional. There are so many examples. Let me just give you the example of when I started a speaking business. I have an organization I was running called House of Mastery. I started this speaking business, and I was essentially a newbie in this area, and we were invited to go to the biggest technological company in East Africa, whose name you will know. If you don't know the name, just search for the better option in East Africa, and you will know the name of the company. And we were invited to table proposals for training sessions for middle management, right? Which middle management do I know? All I know is how to prescribe Lasix and make sure I tell them that your creatinine will rise a little bit. For after a little bit of time, it will improve. So, but I have always been interested in this other area, but I did not feel like I have learned enough of it to venture into such an environment. So I showed up, and there were 8 different people. Some of them have been in the industry for more than 15 years, doing trainings, coaching. I show up, and I'm like, if you would like, I will come here, and I would come and use the principles I've learned from human physiology and human anatomy to help us figure out the problems that your middle managers are dealing with. And then I just gave them an example, for example, how the kidney works, right? How the kidney dilates and it constricts and what the result is. And I was like, we need to figure out in this group of yours who is in the nephron, who is constricting and who is dilating. I made the presentation and left. So I got there when I saw who was on and looked at the CV, the depth of, the weight of the CVs that they were presenting. I was like, all right, it's just an experience for me. Let me just have fun, make the presentation. Maybe in future when I am more experienced, they will hire me. Shock on me. When I was hired to facilitate not just one of the 6 sessions, not 2 of the 6 sessions, not 3, all the 6 sessions, because they gave me a segment on public speaking. They gave me a segment on self-care, which is something I had highlighted. Because I walked in and I looked around and I told them that most of you seated here, you are intellectually very qualified, but right now you're operating at such low energy that somebody who has 10th% of the experience you have will come here and outperform you. That's because you have failed to take care of your body. I am a physician. I will teach you how to do this other thing, but we have to start with your physical health, with your energy, with the intention with which you show up. If you can't even breathe deep enough, how do I expect you to think deep enough about the problems before you? And that's where I started from. So I walked in doubting my capacity based on what I see outside, forgetting that there is something unique I carry that might resonate, and it may not resonate with every organization, but I will find somebody somewhere with whom it resonates, and this person will buy it, and they will value it, they will cherish it. There is an audience for every one of us. And that audience will suffer if you don't develop yourself enough for you to show up and offer value. So in terms of jobs, that would be a good example for me to give in terms of showing up to a high quality international organization that had about 23 managers. 8 of them were people who are not very rich with melanin. I hope you understand what I mean by that. Because it's a multicultural, very high quality people. There are people you look into their eyes, and you see intelligence, right? Right? So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so maybe I should hand over there and back to Stanley.
No, Dr. You can go on. I was just agreeing to what you are saying. Just before we go to Dr. Stanley, please go on.
So I think the bit I wanted to add is I always want to make sure that I deliver this point whenever I'm speaking to people. Guys, do not allow yourself to be intimidated by your peers. It doesn't matter whether they are better than you or you think they're better than you. Do not allow yourself to be intimidated by your peers. Please bear this in mind. The people you are here to influence, some of them haven't even been born. Some are in primary school. When they are ready for you to influence them, just the fact that you've been through university will for them be enough for them to listen to you. The fact that you have been to Nairobi will be enough for them to sit down and listen to you. The question is, what else will you have to offer them when they come, apart from age and your qualifications? Will you have a history of personal self-discipline and consistency and a depth of thought that is beyond Grey's Anatomy to offer them? The people you are created to influence they're not even in your profession. The people in your profession who will learn from you, well and good. Otherwise, the people you will influence, they're not in your profession. They are not within your current circle. They are ready, they will not doubt you, they will listen to you, they will value your words as long as you make a commitment that I am going to cover this curriculum. It's already prescribed, but I'm also going to expand this curriculum. And like Stanley said, learn in a way that you become all-rounded. You're an athlete, but you also have a little bit of bicep. Your bicep is your ability to think, your ability to be creative, ability to be more resourceful. I believe every place I have gone to where I ended up getting an opportunity that I didn't have qualified for, it has ended up becoming, it is because I had taken an extra step somewhere. Challenge yourself, take some extra step. You guys are the single most intelligent group anywhere in the country or even in Africa, which means if you decide to learn a new language in addition to learning medicine, like maybe after internship, you can learn that language in whatever time, whatever you want to learn, you have the capacity to learn it. I say that to encourage you that there's an audience that is coming in future that will be waiting on your word. Let them find you in the best shape that they can find you, ready to influence you, to influence them powerfully. Yeah, that's it from me.
Wow, that was really amazing. I like what you have just finished with, that there's an audience that is coming in the future and it should find us ready to influence them. Thank you so much, Dr. for that. Dr. Stanley, what would be your response to that? Have you been in a position where you felt like the role that you were accepted into, you were not really best qualified for it, and how did you handle it?
Thank you, Benjamin. My best response now would be to give job a standing ovation, but seeing as this is true, let me say yes and no, and I will give two examples. The first, if you guys are online, on internet-enabled smartphones, just type obstructive ileal ascariasis. Obstructive ileal ascariasis. That just means some roundworms blocking the ileum, causing intestinal obstruction. This was a small case report that goes by the name Images in Clinical Medicine in the New England Journal of Medicine. I bumped into this because I came to work early during internship, and my colleague who was covering the department at night told me, hey, pass by theater, we're having an interesting case. And Osuna and I bumped in that I found that they had done resection and anastomosis for a 4-year-old, I don't remember the exact age, I think 10-year-old rather, who had presented with intestinal obstruction. And what did they find? Drum rolls, a bag of worms in the terminal ileum. I took a photo in one of those district hospital kidney dishes or metallic basins. And as I was reading, I came across this segment called Images in Clinical Medicine, New England Journal of Medicine. I posted it. And I forgot about it. I actually, in retrospect, I thought I was naive because New England Journal of Medicine has an acceptance rate of less than 2%, if I'm not wrong. You submit 100 papers, 98 are rejected. They have among the highest impact factor. Months down the line, I was told, okay, we find something interesting, but can you answer these questions? Did the patient have eosinophilia on their hemogram? Did they have cough that could indicate pulmonary spread? Did they have this and this and this? And I answered all that. And then I had to go look for the patient to give us consent because I just went kimbele without asking them. And this is the time now I asked my consultant, Doc, do you remember that case we removed worms? I was submitting it to New England Journal of Medicine and he stopped me. Stop there, it wouldn't be accepted. I told him, well, it was. And then he was, did you include my name? The answer to the same was, yes, it was. Yes, I did. And he came out, and every so often you look at it like, okay, did I actually publish in the New England Journal of Medicine as a medical intern? So that was one of those moments. And I think it just highlights the curse that often we have. And I know there's a question about imposter syndrome at some point in this discussion, that sometimes you reject yourself even before the other people reject you. Let me give another example. This particular one, not because I was not qualified for the position, but because this position did not exist. The position I hold at the moment in my hospital is called Director of Medical Services. It will go as MedSoup in other jurisdictions. It will go as Director of Clinical Services in others, or Chief of Staff in others, depending on the setup, on the organogram of the institution. When I interviewed for a surgeon. And when the interview was done, I was asked, do you have a question for us? And I paused and asked them, can you take two? They said, shoot. That's one question. What is the role of a surgeon in the management decision-making in this hospital? And they looked at me and they went round, and then of course they decided to sound professional and said, there's a position of medical officer of health in the organogram. It has 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I kept quiet and the interview was over. When I was called and told you've passed the interview and you have to come so that we can do salary negotiations, I came again and asked, who is the custodian of clinical care? Who is there to say, okay, we did not offer care enough in the best way we could for this patient, or we should coordinate our delivery of healthcare in this way? Who coordinates this? Do they come just from the matron? Do they just come from the MO? Who does the buck stop with when it comes to clinical governance? And that question perturbed me because I had been beaten once and therefore I was twice shy. You've been in situations where the medical superintendent is a medical officer and therefore their locus standi, their authority to tell you what you've done is wrong, becomes a little stifled by the hierarchy that exists in medicine in Kenya. A medical officer cannot reprimand a consultant. A medical officer has not gone further. Maybe all they have done is internship and gotten that as their first posting, and they graduate upwards and they take up that position by sheer chance of having stayed there for long, or because they are the only ones who allow that leadership position to come. So as a medical officer, you will be there and you will be representing all the consultants in the hospital. The moment the consultant gives something, you might not give it the same value on authority as the consultant. Flip it the other way around. If this is in a public institution, the moment the consultant is late, the medical officer cannot walk to the consultant and ask them, why are you late? And tell them you must write a show cause response for your abscondment of duty or for conflict of interest when you're running a clinic across. And you and I know these are the ills that bedevil our institution. In a nutshell, I asked that question, and once I came now to take up the position, I found a job description that said, your job is Director of Medical Services. And now there are all this manner of answering to the CEO on this and this matter, sijui handling labs, sijui handling who, and all that. And that came not because they looked at my papers. I do not have any MBA. I'm sure there are people who have got managerial duties elsewhere. There was a person who was in acting capacity before I came who understood the institution better, who has a better temperament than me, because sometimes I'm told I'm moody when I get so particular about a certain patient and I can't understand how a nurse and our clinical officer or our medical officer does not see the seriousness even when I have written it clearly. And therefore, I kind of tend to lose objectivity and tell them, this is witchcraft, so to speak. So in sometimes when I'm pushed, I kind of flip. It's a side I'm trying to work on. So in a nutshell, I don't think I was the best qualified, but because I asked the question and I asked question with facts, then they suddenly kind of adjusted. The reason why I've shared this and the reason why I've shared about the New England Journal of Medicine is sometimes we reject ourselves. And sometimes we suffer something else, especially us who are top cream grade A students. We punish ourselves every time something does not come out perfect. We punish ourselves every day something doesn't come out perfect. But we should look at what we learn in every mistake that we make. The gentleman who discovered the light bulb tried how many times? 999. I don't remember the exact time. But
yes, that's true.
Yeah, if he had stopped at the first trial, we would never have had that bulb come at that point in time. Probably it would have come a few years later. So what I have often suffered, and therefore I've told myself to never give in to such, is what is called paralysis by analysis. You look at it, oh, this article does not have the strength like what I have read in New England or in Annals of Surgery. What I've written does not look as witty and juicy like what I read in the last magazine. And suddenly you see on ideas. So it's partly what inspired me to start a blog, because every so often I would want to write something and I write and I don't think it can fit in a newspaper, because who cares what kind of patient you met when you're operating? So if I keep throwing them there, I might be appealing to someone. So don't reject yourself before the world rejects you. Throw your papers there, throw yourself there, and come when you ask, tell them, I do not know. Don't offer solutions you don't have. Tell them, I do not know. At that point, I would actually have to consult. I remember in one interview being asked, you are the resident surgeon and the ward is at 20% occupancy. What will you do to increase occupancy? And I said, I do not know. And that does not belong to me because I do not do marketing. My value is to sit in the clinic and offer such value that the patient who goes out comes back with 2 or 3 more. And then offer such quality that whoever is discharged from the ward goes speaking praises. And if that will take time to grow the volume, so be it. But the other matters belong maybe to customer care, maybe they belong to credit control, maybe they belong to marketing. And sometimes we don't have that confidence to say, I don't know, I would have to check. But people, the higher you go, this is what I like to tell people, the more I know, the more I am not guilty to say I do not know. Because accepting that you don't know is a sign of humility, and it's a sign of self-awareness that this I have to go and find out. Instead of circumnavigating, circumlocuting, and telling people, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Whereas someone who is perceptive enough will know this guy is just confabulating. Yes, Wanike Kosakov. Yes, back to you, Benjamin.
That was a powerful way to end your response, Dr. Thank you so much for sharing with us those experiences, and thank you also for highlighting the two aspects. The one about you writing to a journal that you felt like you were not adequate for it, and also the part about your interview. That was really impactful to me as a person, and I hope that it has impacted our attendees. This question is tied just to the one that you have answered, and you've mentioned it already. So I'll request you to go first. How have you ever felt? I mean, how have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome, if at any point you've come to it?
Imposter syndrome is, I am not good enough. That is essentially what it is. And if you have read Becoming by Michelle Obama, there is no other book that brings forth imposter syndrome than Becoming by Michelle Obama. Please, if you could, read it. It is beautifully written. It is something you can relate to because presidency and vice leadership of the US has belonged to Barack and Michelle respectively. And you can remember every time she talks about something, you can remember from the news, because it's just a matter that took less than half a decade ago. I have had serious imposter syndrome because I've had humble beginnings, and we would be teased because we'd not have the means in the village. We would be teased because during the November, December season, which is the time when the crop is off and you have to wait for the next crop, we would be the people who would be skinny in the village, among a few others. We'd not have, herds of cattle and flocks of chicken and all that kind of wealth. And I remember actually, in the village, those who have been in the village, what happens to the old people when they drink one too many. They stagger home singing loudly. And every time they come across your homestead, they will shout your dad's name and insult him and move on. And then the next day, the rota will be reversed. So there was this particular day after I finished primary school, and I was waiting to know what I will do. And talk was it all over the village that this boy scored an average of 72%. It was the first in my primary school. It stood for 16 years, but no one is taking him to university. No one is taking him to high school. It was an open secret. So this guy who, as fitina with my dad, passes by our homestead, which was just along a footpath, singing, and then he shouts out, "If you are man enough, your son passed so well, take him to high school, now we see." And I mean, whatever you held deep within yourself has been broadcast for all to know. It is no longer secret. You are pauper, you are worth nothing, and you can't. And that sat with me, that sank with me. When I went to high school, and I enjoyed when people were coming back from midterm, because I had to stay at home to wait for this small arambi that was organized by the parents and teachers of the school where I had completed my primary schooling. And I struggled a little for the first time, then I caught up. But every time when you were about to get the rhythm, you would be sent home for school fees. Every time you were about to settle into the rhythm, you would be sent home for school fees. And I know Job knows that so well because I've read his brilliant book, Born to Win, which is another nice read you can all grab and get inspired by. And I remember the height of this was in Form 4. In Form 4, I am here. I am supposed to be running an agriculture project that entailed you planting some Rosecoco beans and tendering to them, and the people who come from the inspectorate of the KCSE or the Kenya National Exams Council would come and grade it based on how it looks. And I am sent home for school fees because I have fees accumulating in their 40 or 50,000 range. And now the school has discovered that the meal card is the solution. You are sent home, those who have paid get a meal card. So if you want to stay, you stay, but there's no food. And now I have to decide, to devise a way to go home, sneak in over the weekend with some supper that I can eat and water my seed bed because no one will water it and no one will weed it, and then sneak out on Monday because if I'm caught in school, it will now be criminal because I sneaked in and there will be punishment, etc., etc. So I did this until one weekend it coincided with a science congress, and I had to attend the science congress because I was representing the school in the chemistry science project. We went and won, and we were the only group from our school to win to represent our school in the provincials. And there I was in a catch-22 situation. Do I run home like I've been doing for the last 3 weeks? Or what do I do? If I run home, it will be known to all and sundry during assembly time that Stanley and Mutua Samson are the only people whose project won at district level, and they're going to be representing the entire district at the provincial. So whether I go or not, it will be known to the administration that I was actually within the school premises. So I decided to sit in, and then it is announced, and we have to come to the podium at the assembling ground to hand over the trophy to the principal. And the principal looks at me with that abduced nerves activity. And I stagger to class, and I'm called after school, after the first lesson, which was a mathematics double. And I'm asked, why are you here? And I said, what do I do? I want to come and do this, and to come do this, and to come do this. And then he looks at me and tells me, when intelligent people behave stupidly, things are not good. And he sends me out. That's a story for another day. So I grew up knowing that I am born in a second-rate caste. If I was in India, I would be among the Kshatriyas or whatever you call them. That after this, I can just incarnate into a chameleon or something. You know, the lowly mammals who do not have the intelligence. I went to college where I met Job, and it wasn't easy, but at least the help would help normalize things here and there, but we still struggled at school. So imposter syndrome has come with me for long until I joined my postgraduate training and decided to take it head on. And one person who inspired me so much was none other than the current president, Uhuru Kenyatta. This is how it went. When I joined, the learning curve was stiff. I was coming from a public hospital to come to the top-notch private hospital where the patient can take you head on until you wonder, okay, is this the patient who is quarreling me, or is this my program director? And then the chief resident is the guy who can hack you, and you wonder, okay, is this my chief resident, or is this the chair of surgery? And by the time it is getting to the chair of surgery, you feel like a slave. And residency is crazy. It's a story for another day. But during the run-up to the 2013 elections, you all know what was happening. Everyone was telling Kenya, choices have consequences. And Uhuru Ruto, the tagline that was now going for the president and his deputy, as they were running for office to succeed the NAC government, was that this is a criminal enterprise. These guys are criminals. But did you guys watch how they mobilized people, how they had an alliance, how Uhuru Kenyatta took to that podium at the debate, and he debated everyone hands down. And I remember mentioning to my colleague and classmate, because we were having a discussion and watching the debate at the same time, Isaac Kobe, and I told him, this is what money gives you. Money gives you the feeling and the experience that anything in this world belongs to me, and I'm going out and I'm going to get it, and no one can stop me. Because I outrightly told them, if I were in his shoes, the moment there was all this chorus of condemnation about my belonging to the ICC suspect list, I would have dropped my country teacher. But he did not. The cases were dropped, whichever mechanism is not important. In law, they say the end justifies the means. It was dropped. He became a president. And that's when it started dawning on me. And then I got a good mentor, the late Professor Saidi, and the current Professor Wasike is still there. And one thing they would tell me is, Stanley, you are not self-made. You have made yourself to have come from a public place and joined such a competitive environment and still thrive means there is something in you. You are self-made. So up to now, I still have an imposter syndrome. Up to now, I still struggle with it. And that's why for me, joining like Toastmasters, learning how to express myself better, learning how to just come and place my case and pose and quickly say, I don't know that, I can't do that, I have not done this before, but I can do it if you give me a chance. Those are not difficult for me to say. Those are not difficult for me to say, because at the end of the day, what can happen? Will someone kill you? Will you die? No, you won't. So it's one of those really, really big elephants that I have had to struggle with for the last 3 decades of my life. Back to you, Benjamin.
Thank you so much, Dr. once again. That was really impactful. The stories that you've shared about your village, you speak for most of us, and they resonate so much with us. And it's interesting that you say that you were sneaking into school, while the experience normally is that people sneak out of school for them to get into trouble with the administration. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'll go straight to Dr. Mogire. Have you ever been in a situation where you feel like you don't belong here, and how did you deal with the imposter syndrome that comes with that? Sorry, Dr. Mogira, your mic is on mute.
That's imposter syndrome, muting my mic without my consent. I was going to say, this is such an important question. I love everything that you've said, Stanley, and especially how you've illustrated it. I remember I remember standing during one of the National Science Congress sessions, and I was presenting, and my pronunciation that time, it was what it used to be. Let's not go there. My name is Job, but I grew up among a community that doesn't have a J. Everything is Che. And my name has a B, but I grew up among a community that doesn't have either P or B. It's a V in between. So I'm there standing in front of these dignitaries, National Science Congress, and introducing myself as Chobu, because that's how I knew to pronounce my name, right? So that generally the past experiences I've had definitely have given me a series of experiences that made it makes it very easy to fall back into imposter syndrome. Everywhere I have gone, I find it's as though I have always been looking for ways to face discomfort and overcome it, face discomfort and overcome it. I used to stutter when I was in high school, especially high school. I used to stutter so much that my peers generally joked that I should become a rapper. By the time I joined medical school, I had the double tragedy of stuttering and having a very deep accent, and I had to find ways to overcome it. And so I have looked for ways to face and overcome. I joined Toastmasters to face my fear of public speaking, and for me to start intentionally learning how to speak in a way that it's very easy for whoever is listening to understand me. I have intentionally created networks with people who will push me to grow, to reach higher, to go a little further. I guess without belaboring the point about the reality of imposter syndrome, perhaps I will just give you the insights I think I have learned along the journey. The first insight is that it's while we worry about whether we fit inside with other people, I think the bigger part we have influence is, do we fit with the goals we have? In other words, am I doing everything I can with what I have right now? Because you will never respect yourself fully if you are cutting shortcuts, if you're taking shortcuts with your own life. Shortcuts are simple as the environment you live in, the room or house you live in. If you are taking shortcuts, you are creating a reputation with yourself. That reputation with yourself ends up amplifying everything you hear from outside. If you're taking shortcuts, if you, for example, in your studies, you're only, you're limiting yourself to the bare minimum, or for pathology, it's just, this is all that is we are required to know. You do the bare minimum and that's it. You will never respect yourself. You start respecting yourself when you face the discomfort that you are presented with and go past it. And that's what I had in Stanley's sharing. Dr. Riaru, in residency, as a registrar, you decided to face what was coming to you and still perform at a high level, regardless of how difficult it was. And that's how we gain faith in ourselves. We earn our own trust. We earn our own respect. And once we do that, it becomes very easy for you to be more proactive, more resourceful and creative when you are faced with a situation where you feel like you don't belong. Because it becomes a double tragedy if you don't belong in this external environment, but you also don't have enough self-respect within, because you have lived 20, 30, 40 years of taking shortcuts day in, day out, day in, day out. And that's how you start owning your own esteem, owning your own space, where you pat your back, not out of pride, but out of the appreciation that you set out an objective, you showed up, you completed it, and you have grown as a result. Eventually, no matter what anyone else says, you already have a solid core within you of self-respect, self-trust, where peer pressure does not affect you the same way it affected you when you were 13 years old, because now it's not the same person you were 13 years ago, 10 years ago, 8 years ago. You have earned your own respect. You have earned your own worth, and you're continuing to build on it every single day. Imposter syndrome is a reality. Every single day, how we live determines how we can face it and overcome it. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. for sharing those nuggets with us. We'll go to the next question, which is, have you ever? I know this is obvious. So many of us send applications and we get rejected. So in your experience, you've sent an application and you've been rejected. How do you deal with that? Maybe you can start with Dr. Magira.
That's such a timely question. Right now, I have just completed a season of applying for fellowships to go and specialize in cardiology. I applied to 150 something programs and wow, got invited to less than 10 programs, which means in the course of 1.5 months, in my email, every day, there are 3 or 4 rejections. And some of the rejections came from programs I really wanted to go to, right? So rejection is a reality. Rejection is failure, and failure is part of success. Rejection is like wanting to swim, right? But waiting for you to start swimming only when you are sure you will not drown. You want to swim when you know exactly how to swim. And so when we fear rejection, when we get affected negatively by rejection or get stopped by rejection, we are toddlers, or in fact we are infants. We want to walk without stumbling. So we want to wait until the day we are sure that we will stand up and walk straight and not fail, right? Rejection is feedback. Sometimes when you get rejected, you've been given feedback that maybe this is not appropriate, this is not aligned for you, or you haven't built your skills well enough for what you are trying to go for. Or sometimes you get rejected in a situation where it has nothing to do with you. So for example, one common thing is, for example, a person gets rejected by a potential partner for, let's say, marriage. Maybe one person is that, that these two people are at different places. So you and I will suffer rejection. When that rejection comes to us, you and I get to decide whether this rejection is feedback for us in terms of the places we need to improve, the places we need to learn, or you and I need to realign, to revise our goals and our approach, our strategies. Rejection is a given. If you don't want to be rejected, please don't try to do anything important. Don't. Otherwise, if you're trying to do something important that requires you to take a risk, you are going to be rejected. And when that rejection comes, you get to decide whether it's feedback, whether it's redirection, whether it is a challenge to you to try again, so that if it's something you truly believe in, you will try again next time. As long as next time you are not trying again as the same person you are today, you're trying again having learned, having grown, having expanded, having become more consistent, more disciplined, more strategic, having become more resourceful, whatever you need to grow in, so that next time when you try again, you try better, you try more focused, you try more consistently. So rejection is feedback. Rejection is a turn in the road. If you follow the turn, beyond the turn, there is a straight path ahead of you, which you can walk until you meet another turn or another detour. As long as you have your goals clear, you keep moving forward. Yeah, over to you, Benjamin.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Daktari. I like the fact that you say that rejection is failure, but failure is part of success, and also that rejection is a feedback. So I will not dilute that, and I'll just go straight to Dr. Aruyaru. Dr. Aruyaru, how have you dealt with rejection at any given point?
Thank you, Benjamin. I think we should have a project where people can list what and when they have been rejected. I think I would have such such a sizable folder. Is Nelson Mandela who said, falling is not the problem. It's ensuring you wake up or you rise up after every fall. So I totally share with what Job has said, that rejection is feedback. It is important, even as you look for external validation, to have your own internal validation, to be convinced that you're good. Just less than 2 months back, I had applied when the vacancies came up for Kenyatta National Hospital. The Othaya Annex, I applied as a general surgeon. Kenyatta University Teaching and Research and Referral Hospital, there's no one from KU here. Please don't tell them. Okay, they will watch this on YouTube. Anyhow, it's an open secret. I applied. I did not even get a rejection note. And for 1 or 2 teaching positions in the university, I did not get. Does it mean I didn't qualify? I don't think so. As a matter of fact, I am an associate fellow of the American College of Surgeons. If you just Google now American College of Surgeons and type up there, find a surgeon, and then click on Kenya, you will find there are less than 5 full fellows and there are less than 15 associate fellows. So if they are looking at that kind of qualification, surely all those others are already, I'm sure they didn't apply, okay? I belong to this body, I belong to the other body, I ended some peer-reviewed journal, I have more than 15 publications. So surely, I don't think I did not merit even to sit in an interview. So I did not let it drag me down. I moved on. I knew, yes, I have not gotten this, but there are instances also where I have been surprised. I have applied and I've gotten an offer beyond my expectations. So I do not want to dwell on the negative. I like to dwell on the positive. For instance, when you started by asking us if we've applied and we've gotten a position that we didn't think we merited, the same can be asked in reverse. Did you apply and actually miss an opportunity that you felt you deserved? Yes, but what can you do about it? You cannot work on those people. You can only work on yourself. And that is what Job has so detailedly captured. And I move on and I tell myself this: I'm going to dust my CV, I'm going to have it ready, because it is better to be prepared and the opportunity does not come than the opportunity shows up and you are not prepared. So I look at it and ask myself, in future, what will I do? I think I will do some. I pride myself in being computer literate, but I don't have a single certificate. And you know, Kenya is a country of certificates. So I tell myself, maybe this is the time I did MS Word and Microsoft, PowerPoint, and everything, and got some ICDL certificate, and I will show them, for instance, etc., etc. So every of those rejections come as a feedback for you to work on something. And people who are well-versed leaders will not reject you with a go to hell kind of a message. They will know how to package it. They will know how to tell you, we felt your strengths are here, but we are looking for this. And I think that might be lacking in most of the current employer networks. And that might be a challenge to you, not because you are that bad, but because maybe you are so good, but the other guy wanted in cheaply. Maybe you're asking for this amount and they wanted for 70% that, etc., etc. So I don't like to look at rejection in the eyes of, I am too bad. I look at rejection in the eyes of, maybe what they wanted is not exactly me, and there's gonna be another opportunity and another institution that wants me. Booker T. Washington was a Black rights activist, and he once delivered a speech that some historians have argued should be up there together with the I Have a Dream from Martin Luther King. And this is what he told the African Americans, that cast your buckets where you are. Cast your buckets where you are. Because he was going against this notion where people wanted to migrate from the south and move north, where there were more blacks in the time of all the civil strife and all the racism and all that. I think Mogiro will be more poised and paced with that segment of the US history. So casting your buckets where you are means you can give yourself, you can make the best where you are. And sometimes we look at such a big institution, and I always, for example, dreamt of going to Aga Khan. I always dreamt of going to Aga Khan. While I was an MO, I would walk around with my colleagues and tell them, next time you're gonna be walking here and meeting me dressed in these scrubs. I am sure about it. And truth be said, I got it. When I got in there, the environment was extremely tense. Today, as we speak, I know some of the faculty have reached out because they like their own. So they say, that's an Aga Khan graduate. Let's get him back. We are looking for faculty. We are looking for tutorial fellow. But you ask yourself, do I really want to go? Because you understand the environment. Do I want to go back? Or do I want to have a bigger impact in another setup? And that can apply absolutely in every scenario. Sometimes I look at it and say, maybe I would not be impactful if I joined KNH. Maybe I wouldn't be impactful if I joined KU Teaching and Referral Hospital. Or maybe not then, maybe after a year or two, or so to speak. And that is something that is so well captured when Malcolm Gladwell writes about David and Goliath. He talks about small fish in a big pond versus a big fish in a small pond. And he will argue and tell you of stellar performance, people top their countries, and then they go to MIT, and you meet, okay, so you scored 98%, I also scored 98%. And suddenly the competition is so cutthroat that you suddenly start an implosion of that imposter syndrome. Okay, but I thought I was a genius, but I thought I was bright, but I thought I was what? You transnight, you work for 23 hours, you come, the other person has done the same, or they have still outperformed you, and suddenly you start doubting yourself. The moment self-doubt sets in, whether it has been instigated from outside, whether it is imaginary or true, then everything else stops working, because you cannot doubt yourself and still lead. You can't. You have to believe in yourself first. So when you get a rejection, fair enough, sometimes try a lower level and you still have impact there, and you will still grow there, and that time will still come and you'll go. You will get back that particular point in time. Yeah, so rejection happens every day. Every single day, I send this, I want a fellowship, or I want what, or I want some scholarship for some MSc somewhere, or I'm looking for that, and then you don't get it. You do not say you are that bad, you are not going to apply. You keep applying, you keep applying. I am happy job has applied for 150 of them. I think now I will do maybe 2 a week for the next month or so. Yes, that's it, Benjamin. Nothing personal, don't take it personal.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Ariaru, for also sharing your experiences and for reiterating the fact that we should look at rejection as feedback. And this will not go unmentioned. Dr. Job, that is really inspiring. 150 applications in 2 months is so much work, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. Throughout this discussion, the two of you have been quoting some speakers and mentioning some books, and that goes without saying that the two of you read quite a lot, and you read quite diverse books and diverse authors. So the next question is about books. Which books would you recommend for someone to read? The books that the books that resonated so much with you. And I'll start with Dr. Mogire, as he talks about, as he starts by talking about his book, Born to Win, and then recommends others.
Yeah, no, the only book you need to read is called Born to Win, period. forget about the rest. So I wrote Born to Win. It's just I love speaking to high school students, but I was leaving the country and I knew I wouldn't be able to go everywhere. So I wrote the book and printed the initial copies and donated to several schools. I'm hoping that in the coming days I will be able to do more. It's just my story, just try to document my journey, because I believe that we need to get more people doing that. In fact, every family should have somebody writing a book that captures people's stories so that we can keep those stories for posterity. I have I've read a ton of books, medical and non-medical, but I've definitely read more non-medical books. It's hard to choose, but if I would give you a recommendation, it's a mix of books. If I could pick one book today to live by, and then that's like my main book, that would be The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's not a book to read, it's a book to study. You have to study that book, otherwise, because it is so loaded. The other book, it's probably one of the smallest books that I have in my library. It's As a Man Thinketh, So Is He, by James Allen. As a Man Thinketh. It's a tiny little book, but it's very powerful. Apart from that, I love reading the Proverbs of Solomon in the Bible. I have a daily regimen where I read one chapter of the Proverbs daily. I have a small Bible on my table where I read that segment, and it's just amazing how that's simple but profound in their content. Apart from that, I believe that you will always pick something if you read a biography and if you read good poetry. Good poetry and biographies of all kinds. I've read biographies of great leaders. I've read biography of Hitler. I've read biographies of, you always learn from reading about human experience when it's written well, when it's expressed really well. Unfortunately, our high school poisons our mind about poetry. But I think poetry is one of those underrated sources of insight, because in reading 3 poems, sometimes you learn more from one poem than you might learn from some books, because poems that have stood the test of time must be written in such a way that the biggest ideas are expressed in the most impactful way. And if you are not a fan of reading poetry, it will take you time to adjust, but eventually, I hope eventually you come to realize that poems are one of the best ways to learn. You will sit down and read a poem for 5 minutes, but that poem is like walking like a whole year's journey, just because it expresses amazing ideas in a way that is, I use the word penetrating. It penetrates your mind, it penetrates your paradigm. So in terms of books, that's what I would, that's what I would recommend. And there are authors I have followed, like I've read 90% of books by someone like John Maxwell, who has written more than 70 books. So there are authors that I really, really follow, but then there are those books which I call the foundational or fundamental books for you to keep coming back to. Whatever religious text you use, I think it's very important for you to make that one of your main texts, and you keep coming back to it and keep learning it, because it's especially if it's based on stories. I love the Bible because the Bible is a series of biographies. It has the biography of the whole Bible, then there's the biographies in there, and we always learn from experiences. Story has a way of delivering lessons to us in a compelling way. So that would be my reflection about this. And of course, in future, when I make Born to Win available widely, you must read it.
That is a promise, Daktari. And in fact, people have been asking about how they can get Born to Win. So at the end of this, you'll give us direction. And thank you so much for sharing with us that list of books that have continued to build you. So I'll welcome Dr. Aruyaru to tell us a set of books.
Thank you, Benjamin. I will start by picking from where Job has left, that you must read this book. You have seen him, and then you read the way his language is beautiful. The descriptive language that he uses in Born to Win is just phenomenal. And just like he said, when you read anybody's biography, you realize that the troubles you think you have are child's play when it comes to another person's monumental challenges. Anyhow, the 3 books I handpicked, one of them is what Job has started by mentioning, that is Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Please pay attention to the habit that talks about private victory before public victory. It's beautiful. It will challenge you. Second is Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. It woke me up when I read it in a matatu from Nairobi, OTC to Kilgoris and back. I wondered why I did not read it towards the end of my high school. Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. It doesn't teach leadership, but it gives you a perspective of how there's nothing like luck, there's nothing like gift, there's nothing like this. So suddenly you get challenged, realizing that the people who look like they are naturally gifted is because they have lived doing what they do. And the third one, which will now draw you into the future, and I just finished reading it last weekend, is Yuval Noah Harari's Homo Deus. It talks about how the future is gonna disorganize our world. And while you're at it, you might want to read The Fourth Industrial Revolution. It's a book written by the World Economic Forum about the future, and they project like by 2050, by 2030 actually, in the US, in one boardroom, there will be 13 members, human beings, and 1 robot. The robot will not need to take the minutes. The robot will listen and retain. The robot will have super processing powers. The robot will not need coffee break or pee break. And the moment you read these books about the future, you realize, okay, so what's my value then? I mean, if everything is being given to robots and machines and algorithms. So those 3 books, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and Homo Deus, The Future, A Brief History of the Future by Yuval Noah Harari. Beautiful books. Back to you, Benjamin.
Well, thank you, Dr. for also sharing with us that amazing list of books that we can go and check into. And next, as we are drawing to an end, we've been talking about, I mean, books are one way of improving our leadership skills. Which other ways would you recommend for us to look into as we are trying to improve our leadership skills, and which leadership skills would you have wanted to start sharpening on from early on in your career? Dr. Job, please go first.
That's an amazing question. The other ways that I'm looking at growing myself is I have my daily 5. I call it my daily 5, and it's not original. I borrowed it from John C. Maxwell. My daily 5 is every day I read, every day I think, every day I reflect, every day I ask unconventional or insightful questions, and every day I record my ideas and thoughts and file them. Every day I read, every day I write, every day I think about what is currently happening, but I reflect about my past, my experiences, my lessons, and I record those ideas into I have files that I keep building those into. That's the way I work on growing every day. What skills would I have wanted to be better at much earlier than now? The first skill is the ability to observe, to truly be present and observe what is going on, observe how things are changing, because you've heard people say, oh, Kenyans or Africans or people are short, they have a short attention span. What that means is that we lose the awareness of what has happened, what is about to happen. So what is happening now, so that we can contextualize it. So the ability to observe, the ability to sit in a boardroom or in a class and truly be observant and absorb what is currently going on. That's number one. Number two, the ability to think incisively, to think beyond the surface, right? To think so that when I speak, I am even afraid to speak because I realize that I'm still speaking from the surface, that I still have a lot more to dig deeper. I actually believe that if you and I learned to think, that we wouldn't need as much reading as we end up doing. You would attend one class for 30 minutes and you need to think about it for 4 hours. So that if you attend a class, for example, about diabetes, by you sitting down to think, you're not reading, you're just thinking, okay, so this is diabetes, hyperglycemia. So if hyperglycemia does this to the kidneys, so what is the impact on this on the liver? What's the impact on this on the gut? How will this, okay, if this happens in the gut, how is that physiology likely to happen to affect the lungs? Just that ability to think, it's what prepares the ground so that the next time you're planting new seeds, you do not have knowledge that is scattered in pieces. You are developing a whole that connects everything together. That enables you to think more insightfully, to communicate more compellingly, to solve problems more intuitively. So that's the one skill that I am working on now. I wish I had developed it a lot earlier. Every time I read a new article, my next challenge is not to read the next article. It's not even to remember what I read, but to contextualize what I have read in terms of how does that relate? How does the inclusion of this new piece of knowledge in my life affect my insight, my understanding of medicine or healthcare? And the third skill that I want to continue working on is the skill of striking quick and authentic and quick rapport with people that I interact with. And that is an element of my relationship skills, ability to maintain and create and maintain high quality relationships, but the element of being able to quickly connect with people. In other words, the ability to anticipate people's mindset, people's current needs, so that when I am communicating with them, I have that at the top of my mind. So that if I'm called immediately, the last thing that I want to ever hear myself say when I'm called to speak in a meeting is, I don't have much to say. That's the last thing I want to say, because I see myself as a role model. I see myself as a leader, right?
Yes.
How being able to anticipate, and that is exactly how I would like each of you to see yourself. If you are in medical school, you are at the peak of university education in the world. There's no higher place. You are at the peak, you are at the very top. So the next time when you are given an opportunity to contribute something and you are like, I don't have much to say, it means you have not been thinking. It means you have not been anticipating. That means you are losing the opportunity to connect. And your effectiveness as a leader is contingent upon the effectiveness with which you can connect with audiences wherever you are, whether the audience is your family, whether it is your colleagues, whether it's your patients, whether you've just been called on television to say something. In other words, you always being ready to connect, so that when opportunities show up for you to connect, because some people you will only meet them once in your life, once. Some of you, we are never going to meet again. You might see me, or I might see you on TV or on social media, but we might never meet again. But I hope that one time we get to interact, that you walk away feeling like, oh, by the way, he actually left me with something little, or I walk away knowing that I went away with something little. The last time I met Ariaru was in 2013. Face to face. Was it? No, it was 2018, May, when I dropped a copy of my book. But you see, like we just met that one time, but we don't know the next time we'll be meeting again, right? If we don't connect during that time when we are together, we can just be coexisting physically in the same space, but we have never connected. So it's an empty coexistence. So those are the three skills: the ability to observe keenly, observe in an insightful way, the ability to think at a higher level than I have thought before, and sharpening my ability to connect and hopefully form long-term relationships. But most people you will meet, you will not have a long-term relationship with. We just need to strike rapport with them in that moment, so that moment matters, even if it's the only moment you ever have. with them. Yeah, that's it for me. Over to you, Benjamin.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. for challenging us to observe, to think, and also to connect. Dr. Riar, the floor is yours. Which skills would you advise us to consider sharpening as we are growing into the people that we are becoming?
Thank you, Benjamin. He has said it all. Allow me to share my screen. But Job has said it all, and the only thing I was going to come to add is what is listening skill. Listening skills, not just sitting and keeping quiet because you haven't had the chance to talk, but listening actively, actually just to, understand the bigger picture. One meeting, I decided to keep quiet and listen. I did not say anything. It was a painstaking experience. When we were done, the chairman of the HMT asked, any information A or B? Again went around, I did not say anything, and we left the meeting, and I think everyone thought I was frustrated, but it was a good exercise for me. I would like to share a few slides as I start by quoting an Arabic proverb that says, open your mouth only if what you're going to say is more beautiful than silence. It's when you meet at those high-level meetings, and this is what I learned in postgraduate, you realize that the professors are not the loudest. It is the chief residents and the junior residents. The professors are thinking, everything you say, it sounds, platitudinous and cheap, but they never shout you down and tell you, what witchcraft are you saying? They keep quiet and will ask you, what if? What if? So just listening without judging, listening to give people a chance to actually just listening to understand their point of view is an ingredient I've found significantly lacking in quite a number of interactions on top of all those things that Job has said. Allow me to share a few things about Toastmasters International because I saw people ask questions, and I think this is an incredible opportunity that gives you an avenue to develop your leadership skill. What I've projected here is what you can find in their Instagram account, and I think on their Facebook page for Toastmasters International. But they found these statistics about leadership that nearly 90% of hiring managers feel that the people they recruit into the organizations that end up being bad hires, those people who you wonder, how did we get this? It's not because they're not technically well endowed with their skills. No, it's because they lack soft skills. And you look at this other 92% of professionals and hiring managers agreeing that soft skills are increasingly important for the candidates who will perform better in leadership. And what are the soft skills we've spoken about? Job has elaborated. I have mentioned listening. These are oral communication, leadership, and time management skills, among the very many others. These more or less have been found to lack in nearly half of these candidates who show up for job description and for interviews and for whatever job applications. And that is why across the world, Fortune 500 companies that are worth their salt are now recommending this program or this organization called Toastmasters International to all their employees. In fact, all the top 20 Fortune 500 companies have at least one Toastmasters club within, we call them corporate clubs, within, so that if you're in EABL, for example, there's Ruaraka Toastmasters, which is domiciled within East African breweries. There's Almasi Toastmasters, which is domiciled within KRA. There is K Toastmasters, which is domiciled within the Hotel Kempinski, etc., because they know the value, the soft skills that their graduates will earn will give them a competitive advantage. I'm using these slides because I have seen questions about Toastmasters and how to join and what is it, and I have shared some links that you can click and get more information. But let me just summarize by saying that Toastmasters communication and leadership programs, which essentially is what happens in Toastmasters, is an organization that teaches people to develop communication, public speaking, and leadership skills that results in better confidence and personal growth. You will learn all those successful teams, how to be a team player. That is one area I seriously suffer. And today I invite you to take any of those leadership, they are called leadership questionnaires, and they will ask you so many questions, and suddenly they will tell you, you score good here, bad here, poor here. I have constantly scored badly in teamwork because I think my predisposition as a surgeon is, okay, you guys are slow, I am gone, I am done with this laparotomy, let's meet in the ward. And that does not render me as a good team player. It renders me as a solo man, a lone ranger, which then impacts negatively on my leadership skills. So Toastmasters, belonging in Toastmasters gives you this skill to develop and guide successful teams, boost team collaboration, enhance listening skills. Critical thinking is another aspect that comes with those projects that are testing listening. Conduct effective meetings that start on time and end on time, sharpen presentation skills, and practice time management. And you see, most of the people will develop these professional skills, presentation skills, other skills, including networking and engaging with the people and public speaking. Joining Toastmasters, if there is anything I can say in a nutshell, I can mention the Health Service Management Masters in KEMU or KU, or wherever, or the Executive Health Related MBA in Strathmore. Those are degrees in a classroom setting. When the rubber hits the road, this is the crux of the matter. If you have a practicing session, it becomes like a practical every single day. And that is what I have found in Toastmasters International. How do I call people and persuade them to take up roles if we have a meeting and I am the master of ceremony or Toastmaster of the day? How do I manage to make sure everyone is within the meeting and we start on time and end on time? How do I do this? How do I do this? So there is tremendous potential, and I invite all of you to try it at a cost of $45 every 6 months. And there are so many clubs across East Africa, 60 to be precise, and you can belong to any. For this time, actually, we are meeting online, which means you can attend remotely. Toastmasters as a program is premised on 4 pillars that you can see holding this block or this house. And those 4 pillars are what are called experiential learning, self-paced learning, peer feedback, and mentoring. You get mentors. You get people who are high-flying physicians like Job Mogire, surgeons, doctors, name them. You will meet former politicians, journalists, MDs, high-flying people who have taken the chance to grow themselves. And this is one of what they are doing. It's like private tuition, which I know we all know. We pay an arm and a leg because we know we want to give our children or our siblings a competitive advantage on top of the K 844 curriculum. So doing this is like doing private tuition to yourself. Experiential learning means no one is chasing you. You won't join the first day and you want to be compared with Dr. Ariari. You will pace yourself and you will experience the first project. You will repeat it in a subsequent meeting, in a subsequent year. And all we want to see is how you fared in the first instance is significantly different from how you fare now because you have demonstrated growth. Self-paced, I have already elaborated on that. Peer feedback, we don't have lectures. You sit, you deliver a speech, you assign someone to evaluate you. You come, you conduct a meeting, you are assigned someone to mentor you how to do that because they have done it for 2 years or more. And then you assign someone to evaluate you and tell you, I think you did fantastic in 1, 2, 3, 4. I think you can improve on A, B, C. And finally, mentoring. And when you talk about mentoring, I have just realized until I had to publish this article in the October magazine that mentorship in Toastmasters is so elaborate and structured that it just patterns, it just reflects what we find in medicine. Everything we do, especially in the practice of surgery, has significant bearing on mentorship. So to develop all those soft skills that deal with team leadership, that deal with connecting, that deal with communication, time management, etc., etc., if you can find a Toastmasters meeting, it will be value for money for you to get that. And most of the projects there are MBA material. I mean, you'll be given a project to execute over 6 months and you will just grow. You will just grow and you'll just be surprised. If you can find time, that is one recommendation I would give. Thank you very much and sorry for taking so much time. Back to you, Benjamin.
Thank you so much, Dr. for taking us through that and giving us comprehensive information about Toastmasters. I believe that the individuals that had asked the question have been answered, and even more that had not heard about Toastmasters now know about Toastmasters. So as we are coming to the end of the discussion, I'd love to give each of you a chance to give a parting shot. This has been a really amazing discussion, and I thank you so much for sparing your time to come and talk to us. And you can now leave us with a few words as we are drawing to the end. Dr. Mogire, you can go first.
Yeah. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you for the opportunity, for the invitation to share. For me, every time I have this opportunity to speak, my first question is this truth, or is it appearing to be true? So it's by speaking to you, by telling you, how I see things. I am making a commitment to myself, because every commitment I make to myself build the reputation I have with myself. And to me, that reputation is more important than anything somebody else can think about me. My recommendations to you guys as students, you only have 3 resources to work with to build the future you want between now and the next 20 years. You only have 3 resources to work with. Those resources are time, that's fixed. Energy, you can determine how much energy to bring to whatever you do. You are like a generator. Generators don't have energy, they generate energy. So you can generate the energy you need. It's very hard for you to be so overwhelmed that you can't accomplish what needs to be accomplished. But most importantly, attention. Do you have control of your attention? Are you able to focus your attention as deeply as you do in anatomy, in learning leadership, in learning thinking, in learning creativity? Make use of those resources. I would recommend the one question that I ask myself habitually now, in light of your past experiences, your current circumstances, and your future aspirations, what's the best use of your time, your energy, and your attention right now so that you can build the future that you want? Allow yourself to learn what you need to learn so that you can make the most of the time, the energy, and the attention you have right now. That will be it from me. My name is Job Mogire. Where I come from, they call me Chopu. And I will hand over back to Benjamin.
Doctor, actually, we come from the same place, and I know what you're talking about. Thank you so much. Dr. Ariaru, your parting shot, please.
Thank you, Benjamin. First and foremost, I want to thank you for organizing such a productive meeting, and I want to thank the participants for being attentive and engaging and encouraging to us as the panelists. I want to appreciate Job for the great insight he has brought forward. I have learned through sharing. I have learned from him. I have learned from the attendees, from the questions they have posed, and it was my pleasure to listen and to talk. I will quote Professor Lukoya Atuoli, one of my mentors. He was a psychiatry lecturer when I was in undergraduate, and currently is the Dean of Medical School in Aga Khan. And one time he told us that you have to imagine life beyond the white coat and the stethoscope. Right now, I want to pose it to you. When you graduated in KCSE, you were top of your school, you were probably top of your zone, top of your county. You chose medicine because no one else could reach there, which means law would have been a walk in the park. Engineering would have been a walk in the park. Teaching, agriculture, art, economics, finance would be a bed of roses. So how come that you who got an A in English still do not want to script something, an opinion article to critique something? How is it that you who was an avid debater now want to struggle with communication? So that is what we can try to do with ourselves, to know that we are still the same bright boys and girls of yore who would have picked any course in university and made a successful career out of it. And medicine should not condemn us into I am lost for opportunities. No, it shouldn't. So exploit every other opportunity and grow, cross-train like we mentioned. Second bit I want to say is to quote from Proverbs chapter 22 verse 1, which is Job's favorite early morning read. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, loving favor rather than silver and gold. So a good name is better than riches. What is a good name? Do you keep your word? Can people trust you? When all the deed is done, when all this Zoom is over and your degree is handed over to you, at the end of the day, people will know that Benjamin is this person who stands by his word. Benjamin is this person who has an ear for everyone who comes to him. And Laura and Lillian are these people who will always be empathetic to someone who is in pain or who has a problem. So creating that human is what is missing in the world. It is what we'll miss in the future when robots take over. Robots cannot hug you when you cry unless they have been instructed in algorithm. But you can connect with people by being empathetic. These are called emotional intelligence. So a good name is better than anything else. Be a good person, not because it is mandatory that you do so, but because you have a conscience that pushes you every day. I tell my people, I am a surgeon. Where I am, there's no one above me. So it is easy for me to come and know it is 11 p.m. I can easily prescribe for a patient conservative management because I know I do not want to go and operate. But what will my conscience be left telling me? What will it be left telling me? It will be left telling me or reminding me the words of the French author, Madame de Stael. The voice of conscience is so delicate that it is easy to stifle it, but it is also so clear that it is impossible to mistake it. If you are at peace with your conscience, the world can be at war with you. That's fine, and that's fine by me. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Back to you, Benjamin.
Thank you so much once again, Dr. Aruyaro and Dr. Mogira, for those insightful comments that you've left us with. So as we are ending the discussion, I'd love to call Laura to give a vote of thanks and to end the discussion. Laura, the floor is yours.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi everyone. My name is Laura, and I'm here to officially end the session. This has been a very informative and mind-opening session. I'd like to thank the panelists, Dr. Mogiri and Dr. Ariaru, for creating time out of their busy schedules to be with us, and also Benjamin for all the hard work you put into organizing this. Personally, I've learned so much. You can live at your own pleasure. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Laura. As you are leaving, there is a form that we have shared in the chat box for you to leave a feedback. Please, if you're able to, you can. Thank you so much, guys. Once again, have a nice week and weekend. Until next time, bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, stay safe.